telling my story of how I got started. But I did make a list and just talked to everybody I knew, like, does your sisters, brothers, uncle, cousin know anything about acting? And so I was able to start doing acting and then become an actor. Now I've been doing it full time for a while and I love it. And yes, as Terry said, in the voiceover world, I'm best known as the character Pan from Dragon Ball GT. And then I've been voicing her for over 20 years because she shows up in video games every couple of years, which is something that I never, ever expected. So that has been such a blessing and so much fun. So that is my little acting story in a nutshell.
So okay, so you got into acting, you learned how to act, and let's focus this on the voiceover.
Yeah, let's do it.
And yeah, so how did you finally land a role like this? Like, did you have a lot of characters that you developed? Did you do a lot of anime and animation before you landed this? And I really do want to cover what is the difference between anime and animation?
Okay, yes. So in a way, I will say I got lucky, but I was also preparing at the same time. So I had not done a lot of voiceover. I had not done any voiceover work when I booked Pan. But the way that I booked Pan was I was performing in an improv troupe and we had gone to dinner and it was based on the Groundlings. So one of the founding members of the Groundlings started a similar type of program here in Dallas where you had to go through 4 different levels, get promoted, and then you could be asked to perform. So I was performing in a troupe and we went to dinner after one of the performances and there was another improv troupe where there were just like 6 of us from these 2 troupes and they were talking about animated characters. And at the time, and I will talk about the difference between anime and animation for those who aren't familiar, but they were talking about what I call cartoons. And for anime folks, you don't call them cartoons, you call it anime. But I loved animated stuff. And so I was like, how can I get an audition for a cartoon? And so one of the guys who was there, Mike McFarlane, who was directing Dragon Ball at the time, because they had already recorded Dragon Ball Z. So I was the 3rd series. He got me the audition. I miraculously booked it because I had gone to my agent at the time and said, I want to do voiceover. She was like, sweetie, we have professionals who do voiceover and you do on camera. Well, then I booked Pan. She was in 65 episodes in a movie at first, and I paid commission. And then she was like, oh, sweetie, I guess you're a voiceover actor. And so when people ask my favorite character, Pan's 14 and has been all these years. So I love Pan because she's feisty and she's a martial artist and does a lot of fighting and she loves her family. So I love her as a character, but it's sentimental because then I did other anime shows and then I did animation. Yeah.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Before we get too far, I'd love to interject something that you said where you were with your other actor friends out to dinner after classes.
Yeah.
Networking is so important. You don't even realize it's not like networking, like you go to a party with your cards or your bracelet that has your QR code on it. Just taking classes, just being in these venues, just being with other actors is it is a form of networking and it's very, very important. You also mentioned improv and you mentioned acting and you mentioned that it was unexpected and that you were prepared. It was luck, but that you were prepared. So I love just that's so rich, all the things you mentioned in that conversation.
Oh, Terry, you're so right because I feel like it was lucky, but if I really list out the things I was doing, my agent had given me my list. Like I had taken a voiceover workshop. No, I wasn't doing voiceover, but I had gone through 4 levels of improv classes and I was performing and we were rehearsing.
Yeah.
And I had taken a commercial on camera class and voice and diction classes and a TV and film class. Like I had been taking all these classes. I had lived in LA for a summer by that time. I had come back. So I was prepared. It just was that I hadn't officially done voiceover. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
that luck meets preparation type thing. Oh,
Exactly.
and you're right about networking too, just being with actors and talking to them or talking to your coach, whomever you choose to coach with.
Yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Now we
But I
can
love
go
that
on. I
you,
just wanted, yeah,
yeah,
I just wanted to bring all that up. So go
yeah. No,
ahead.
I love that you brought that up. Yeah. And it just, it was, we happened to be at dinner talking about it. So I auditioned, I booked band, I started doing other voiceover. And so to answer your other question for people who don't know about anime versus animation, when we are recording as anime people, they have the scripts. So have two screens, have the script on the left, and it looks like a big Excel spreadsheet, and then the actual anime on the right. So you get to watch playback, or you get to watch the actual scene. So you may see your character go, "Oh, I'm going to the store." And you've seen that I'm going to the store. So you kind of have to grab your lines from one side, and then they will actually, you hear three beeps and like beep, beep, beep. And on the fourth beep, you will say, "I'm going to the store." And hopefully you will match the flaps from the anime. So in anime, it's a combination of having the acting skills, making character choices. And yes, it's also a vocal choice, but it's always a character choice in your acting. And then it's the technical skill too of being able to match the flaps. Or if you're, like if you're doing a fighting scene, it's being able to match that screaming flap. And then animation,
Do
yeah.
you physically have to be there in the studio? Because I know I cast a lot of animation, animated commercials, and if someone is not, we book people who are not in the home base of LA where the studio is, and then the producer has to show them the spot because they're not going to be in the studio, but they don't have to match anything. I'm wondering if you, for anime, if you have to physically be in the studio.
Well, like right now, my work is through Crunchyroll, and they are requiring actors to be in studio because there's so many moving pieces. Now,
Mhm.
do you have to? COVID proved that you didn't have to because they recorded actors from their home studios.
Mhm.
So right now, Crunchyroll at least is requiring in studio. I know in LA, there's New Generation Pictures, there's Bang Zoom. I'm not sure what their requirements are. So if anybody knows that and wants to drop it in the chat, that would be amazing. But I think it's just much easier sometimes because there's, the
Mhm.
dialogue and the screen and the engineer immediately going, "Oh, okay, I just dropped it in and you actually are off two flaps, so we need to record again." So it is easier to be in studio. I'm sure there are some people who don't require to be in studio. Okay, let's see. David Lawrence says they're doing both. So are all the dubbing houses. Okay, so there are some dubbing houses that are allowing you to do remote. And that's good to know. And I thought
Yeah.
that was the case because I did have a friend who she had submitted to Bang Zoom and she was getting her studio approved. So they were just making sure her sound quality was okay. So I thought that was the case. I just haven't worked for those houses without being in LA.
Guess it would be really interesting if those people who are interested in anime to Google and find out where anime studios are, don't you think?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then there are some independent places
a
too,
lot
or
of it.
independent casting directors, independent
Yes.
projects. And that would be my encouragement because we are talking about being a voice actor and not being in the big markets and
Mhm.
being in regional markets. So that's where, oh, let's see. Oh,
Someone just-
Aaron's here. Hey, Aaron. So Houston, LA, New York, Ontario. Okay, so he's helping us for the anime houses. Yeah. Oh, Houston has a lot of anime. I have to mention that.
I would
Yeah.
imagine Atlanta has some by now because there's so much work in Atlanta.
Somebody, yeah, there's so much work in Atlanta. I haven't heard about anime dubbing houses there. Somebody may know.
Okay.
Somebody's asking if there's Florida. Oh, Aaron. Aaron is my student
No,
in Florida.
none
He
here
said
in
there's none in
Florida.
Florida because he lives there. Yeah. Oh, Atlanta, there is Cartoon Network.
So
But animation, well, pre-COVID, animation was also fun because we would get to be there and be in the room with two people or six,
yeah.
and then you get to act and react off of people. And so that almost felt like film or TV work. And then, of course, they animate to your voice instead of you matching the flaps of a character. And so that is fun as
Different?
well.
Is that what is the difference between anime and animation?
So anime, oh, I should also say, so anime is brought over from Japan, and then, we do the English dub, and then there's, a dub, uh, dubbing, just the ADR work. So we match flaps. So there's an English dub, there's a Canadian dub, there's a Spanish dub, a German dub. So we are matching flaps to the Japanese. They call it animation, but when it comes here, we call it anime. And then the stuff done here, like by Disney, Pixar, and all the big animation studios that we know, that is animation because it originates here in the US. And so much of that, as you know, Terry, is done in LA.
Yes. I've cast for Nickelodeon and their animation studios, some of their studios, oh my God, are like huge rooms. Like 20 people could fit in the rooms, and there's couches, and it's a very exciting place to be.
It's great. Well, and what I would encourage people to do, because if you're on Instagram or whatever your social media platform of choices, they will show behind the scenes, and you will get to see The Rock or whomever, who's voiced a lead character in one of those big Disney Pixar animated films. And you will see them, even if they're by themselves, in this huge room. And it is fun to see. When I first voiced Pan, I was in this tiny room, and I'm a very physical actor. So if I have to do a small motion. So it was, a small kick or punch.
Crazy not to.
Yeah. So it was easy to kick the wall. Now, which is now Crunchyroll. Crunchyroll has bigger studios, recording studios, but not the huge size that you're talking about with couches.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody did just say there's a live action dubbing studio in Miami, but no anime. And that's something to talk about too. Live action dubbing, where they bring live action films with real people, and actors dub in English or whatever the language is. And that does happen in Dallas and LA and other markets as well.
So so I'm skipping a little bit.
Okay.
People finally do book something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, like how do you know what to do the first time? I mean, is there training where you know what to do? Like, so you don't you don't book it and go in that room and like a deer in headlights?
Yes,
Like,
there's
how
all
do you
kind of training,
prepare? How do you
but
prepare for even doing this?
so to answer both questions, yes, there's training. I teach. There are lots of teachers. There are people who, if we're talking about, anime or animation or video games, there are all kinds of teachers. Some teachers who will actually, for example, if it's anime, who will actually pull up an anime and have you match flaps. But some tips are even basic. Like if I book a job, let's say, like I just went in to record last week. If it's a new show, so I'm also a researcher. So this is the nerdy side of me. And I recommend this. Part of it, yes, you have to be an actor, but researching helps. So let's say it's anime. I will, if the dub, so if the English dub is not out yet, I will watch the Japanese sub, so with subtitles, because you want to get the tone of the show. So if the tone is very cinematic and people are, talking like very in muted tones, you don't want to go in and go, "Hey, so we're going on a date, huh?" When it's really, "We're going on a date. That sounds fantastic." So sometimes it's just doing research, whether that's for the audition or the actual booking. Just like if you have an animation project and it hasn't been done yet, because I used to do this in LA with animation projects or with TV shows, you can at least look up, an Actors Access, they'll show you the producers, the directors, the casting director. And so you can look up those people and go, oh, this is the type of project they typically do. So I could, infer that this is the type of project it's going to be. So there's a lot of research that I think can be done. Can you be wrong? Yeah, but at least you can do your best to research and know what you're getting for the audition and for the job. And then when you get the job, like the fantastic part, directors are amazing. We love directors. So if you go into an anime, like the shows I've booked recently, I try to watch the shows on, because I have a Crunchyroll subscription, so I can get the tone, but they still walk in and go, okay, here's what's happening. This is what's happening on the show. This is what your character is doing. Oh, you didn't quite get that line. I actually want it to be a little more playful. So just be a good listener and magic will happen.
And so how many characters does someone need to have in their toolbox to be ready to really do animation or
Ooh,
anime?
I'm glad you asked about this because I was thinking about this before. There, there are two, I feel like there are kind of two types of character actors. Um, People who can sound like a gazillion different characters, and you may go, oh my goodness, I would have never known this actor did all of these different
Yeah.
characters. And then I think there are some actors who just sound like themselves, and maybe it's, the pitch is a little higher or they're using their lower register and the intention is different. So I think that's actually the good news for people too. If you can't sound so different, sometimes it's just yourself. In fact, I was having a conversation with a guy who's been my student for about a year, and I said, and he just booked something Crunchyroll, and I said, what's a big takeaway that you've learned now that you've been doing it for a while? And he said, I think it was that I can really use my own voice for a lot of characters. I don't have to have, and this is for anime, but he's like, I don't have to have these crazy characters all the time. I just need to be able to act. So I thought that was really perceptive of him. So you could be either kind of actor and still have a really good career in anime or animation.
But when I'm listening to a demo, um, like some people say, yeah, like, I'm great. I do all these characters and they all sound the same. And their emotion all sounds the same. So,
Mm.
if they do, how many different for a demo, like how does someone, what's their final list? Are there's a certain amount of emotions, or if they're using their same voice, or how many different voices?
Yeah, so in prepping for a demo, I think, and this is in talking to demo producers as well who focus on character demos, I think a safe or good number is 10 to 12 characters.
That's what
But
I've used
is
to.
that what you
Yeah.
think as well? Yeah. And there are so many ways you can have different vocal choices, still focusing on the acting. But then, you can change the inflections or change the pacing, change the tone, change the emotion. So there are a lot of things that you can change and think about the type of characters you want to play, like voice. So there are still so many things you can do to, like you said, not have every character sound the same because you don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, I know for the type of casting that I do for animation,
Yeah.
it's real voices, but definitely different emotions. So they have to be really good actors. And I've heard that the trend now is not I say get to know your show, which you mentioned, because I hear
Mm.
the trend, even for Disney, is not the very extreme fake character voices.
See, I've
What's your
heard that's the
experience?
trend as well. But
Mhm.
one challenge I give to actors, because obviously people who want to do voice acting are listening to voice actors. But I still say, so you can all do this, have a heightened awareness of voice acting. And so if whatever, listen to commercials on Spotify or watch animation or video games with a new sense,
Mhm.
um, and pay attention. Like, do you like the actor? Could you do that? Would you cast yourself, or did they do a good job casting? And even if you think that you have a heightened awareness, most people come back and go, oh, I did hear something different. One of my favorite animated films to reference, and I always forget the name though. It's a Madagascar. Somebody may know the name.
Oh, I'm sure we'll know.
Yeah. So help me out here. It's the
Allie might
Madagascar
know.
film that focuses on the penguins. But why I love that film is because there are some
Oh,
what we call penguins of Madagascar. Well,
okay.
there's there's an easy film to remember. But in that you hear some like quirky, cartoony voices, and then some actors where you can tell they are just doing their voice and not even using inflection. And so it's such a now I need to go back and watch it. It's such a fun film to watch because you hear both. And I do see a couple of questions. Somebody asked about anime dubbing versus ADR. Most people use it interchangeably, although ADR can also be include other things like it's dialogue replacement. So it could be for
Yeah.
film or live action.
Do you want to
You
start on
oh,
questions? Do you want to start on some questions?
mhm.
It's up to
Let's
you.
do that because we're already getting questions. I
Yeah.
did see a question about union.
Jamie, you want to let some people?
Oh yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've been kind of keeping track, but you've been addressing them as they come up in the chat, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
Jamie's amazing.
So yeah,
Jamie's a voiceover artist herself.
Oh, I was
with
going to ask that
Oh, yeah,
before we
she
started and we ran
is.
out of time. Oh, that's great.
yeah, I have on-camera background, but I mostly do voiceover now, and I love it.
Oh, awesome.
So the first question, which you touched on, but if you have anything you want to elaborate on, I just wanted to bring Craig Brunel up because he was the
Great.
one that asked the difference between animation dubbing and ADR. So Craig, if you want to come up first, you can put your camera on and your unmute
Can,
yourself.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
On and up.
I'm not sure how to turn the camera on.
I might
Uh,
be.
Let me
Oh,
see if I can see you up at the top.
okay, wait, okay. I said okay. Um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I guess you don't have to see me.
Jamie, can you bring
Your
Craig
camera's
up?
on. Your camera's on, Craig. We got you.
Oh,
Can you bring?
okay,
Or
great.
do I have to, Jamie?
I guess I should look at my camera then.
Jamie?
For the question.
Oh, there you are.
are.
Hey.
All right, hello.
Hi, Craig. Nice
Hey,
to see you.
yeah, it's been
I hear
quite a
your
while.
auditions a lot. Okay, what's your question?
So I'm just wondering if you're talking about matching flaps in the animation or anime, and I'm wondering how that's different from like live action ADR type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar. I actually don't do a lot of live action. So if somebody else may have more experience with that, but you're still matching the flaps for live action dubbing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is the same thing from my understanding, but yeah, if you see the cartoon, and they usually only give you a line or 3 lines at a time, because you can't memorize a whole paragraph at a time and then match the flaps. It does help if you can memorize like 2 lines, so you can grab the lines over on the left and then match the flaps on the right. Do you do live action dubbing?
I have done it a couple of times, and it does sound very similar.
Okay, yeah. And I would imagine with live action dubbing, you also have to match the tone of the actor. And
Right.
it's the same thing with, the Japanese anime. You kind of want to match the tone and the emotion. And I will say another thing with the anime dubbing that is different from, say, film work. You have to, since you skip through, let's say you have 1 episode and you may skip from line 5 to line 13 to line 25 to line 127. Well, you may go from happy to sad to angry to fighting. So you have to quickly create that emotion and be believable. Whereas if you're doing a film and you're upset, well, you've had, during pre-production time to write your backstory and know why you're going to be sad. And then during the film, why you're crying, and you have time to work up to it. It moves so quickly in an anime. So while there are so many similarities between on-camera work and anime work, that is a little different. You don't have time to work up the emotion.
In
But
Right.
yeah, it's very similar.
the class that you teach, thanks, Craig.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks,
Um,
Greg.
Jamie, you can, in the class that you teach, do you get into them practicing matching and?
So I don't have the capabilities to have the stuff on screen to match. I do have somebody I recommend who has the capabilities. He's actually he's in North Carolina or South Carolina. I always forget.
Well,
So we do
that's
talk about anime, animation, video games, other types of scripts. And so we do talk about how to prepare. So some of the same things that we have talked about today, and just in more detail. But yeah, I'm not fancy enough to do all of that. I let the
Okay.
engineers take care of that.
We have some more questions. I see
Okay.
hands raised.
We do. So if you're ready for the next one, next up in my queue is Elizabeth D'Onofrio. She has a question about your demo.
Okay.
So
Hi.
let me spotlight
Hi,
you.
Elizabeth.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Hi.
Where are
Hi
you
all.
located? Where are you located?
Florida, Fort Myers Beach.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, yes, does your demo need to be like professional work that you've done, or can you just put together one
You
with
can
different
put to-
voices?
Yeah, you can put together. Most of my actor friends create new demos. I have heard of a couple of friends who will use work that they've done like for commercials or something, but in my experience, most people create their own, because the nice thing is you get to choose what you want on your demo, and you get to showcase your skills and make you look good versus, doing a commercial for somebody else or doing a project for somebody else. So I would create your own material.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
You use your demo to look for work, and especially when you're first starting. So you use a professional person, they make it sound absolutely professional. There's sound effects, yeah.
And music.
Make
And
your
I've talked to people who have started with DIY demos if they didn't have the budget, but ultimately,
Yeah, that's what I kind of do,
I
I also play around a lot with voiceovers. I send little Christmas video, voiceovers to my grandchildren, because
truthfully, I don't take anyone seriously if they don't have a professional demo. It just feels like they're not committed enough to take
okay.
all the steps to getting that, and that's professionally what it is, your presentation. So I don't take anyone seriously if they just throw me something non-professional.
I was gonna
Okay.
say the same thing. I recommend a professional demo because you also have to think, who are you competing with? You're competing with somebody who's been in the business 5, 10, 25 years, who's had a professional do it. So you've got to have your demo at that level. And a lot of people who have had DIY demos, they may do sites where they get free work or lower paid work, but you ultimately you need a professional demo. Plus, it's just nice to go into the studio and have somebody who's been producing demos for 20 years, and they direct you, and they, you know, even if you bring script or have them write script, they direct you. You only have to focus on the acting. You don't have to focus on the recording and the editing and how do I get royalty-free music and sound effects. It is like, I just did 2 new demos this month. It's so wonderful to just go in and go, you're the expert. I'm going to hand this over to you and I'll do what I do. Like, I have an accounting degree. I hand my taxes over to somebody because I'm like, you do taxes every day. I do not. So yeah, shoot for getting a professional demo.
Yes, I will. Another
Mhm.
thing to cast
No.
those coin jars in for.
Okay, Jamie, thank you so much.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
You're welcome.
As a casting director, we have to really trust who we are presenting to our producers, to production, to the clients. They're depending on us. So we have to trust you. Trust that when you get that booking, if you're the one who's booked, that you're going to come through. Otherwise, they turn right around to me if I have given them that person, you know, and they'll say, who is this person? Like, why did you give us them? And it might be because your demo was overproduced or your audition was overproduced. And so we have to really don't overproduce, don't promise anything that you where you're not at the moment. Trust that you will grow. You're one place now, and as you get, you know, better as time goes by, you'll get better and better, or different and better. And, you know, some people who are doing animation for a long time, they'll put a new demo together and they'll put characters on there or types of voices that they haven't done yet, that they want to be considered for. Like Elise mentioned in the very beginning, where she said to her agent, I want to do voiceover. And they said, well, honey, you're not on camera. So if she had a demo, look, agent, look what I've done. So anyway.
And you brought up something good, Terry, about do what you can do. And I will add to that, that you can sustain, because I've had people
Yes.
go, oh, well, I can do a monster voice. Well, I know me, Elise, I could never sustain that for a 2-hour session. So whatever is on your demo, make sure you can sustain that for a 2-hour session, or just don't do it. Or an audition. There are certain things I could do for an audition. I would never submit, though, because I could never book that, and I wouldn't want to or sustain that. So you don't want to ruin that relationship with the casting director or engineer. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Nice. So everybody in the queue, I see you, but first I would like to address Laura. I'm so sorry if I say your name incorrectly. Bialsik. You asked a question about agents and representation. So if you want to come up, Laura, and put your camera and video. Here we go. Perfect. Let me spotlight you.
Hey, I'm at work right now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Laura.
Hi. Thank you so much for doing this. I was actually just wondering, so I feel like I'm at the point now where I'm ready and I want to start reaching out to agents, but I'm not particularly interested in doing commercial work. And with my on-camera agent, I was also not particularly interested in doing commercial work. And I realize that's the bread and butter.
Mhm.
But are you finding that more agents are willing to just represent you in the interactive, like video game animation field?
I can tell you my experience in working with students, and then Terry, you can tell me yours. I find that most when my students submit, most agents want to represent you for voiceover across the board. And it's because of what you said. Commercials can be the bread and butter. And I heard an interview recently with, I can't remember if it was an agent or a casting director, but they said, commercials, there's a new one every day, practically, whatever market you're in. And then animation, there's not a new project every single day. There's just not as, even if there are new opportunities, it's just not as frequent. So agents still have to stay in business. And if you can make them money for commercials, you're still getting to act, you're making money, so you can sustain your passion for video games, your passion for animation or anime, and everybody's happy. So when I've had students submit in different markets, because I've had students submit all over the place, it seems that people want to represent them across the board. Now, my disclaimer to that is, having lived in LA, you can get an agent and they will just represent you for commercials, just represent you for promos, just represent you for animation and video games. In a lot of the regional markets like Dallas, if you get represented, you're usually across the board. Terry, what's your experience?
Yeah, well, I have a question, Laura. When you say you're not interested in commercial work, does that mean voiceover commercials? What do you mean commercial work?
I feel like for my particular voice and my style of character acting, I just feel like I'm more suited for the more animated, the more character driven work.
You're still not answering the question.
Oh,
when you're talking about commercial work, you're talking about VO commercial work, not on.
right.
Okay, got it. So I want to know who's answering. Well,
And
I hear you very differently. I hear your voice totally that could be on many, many, many commercials. So I would say that if you went to an agent and told them that reason, that they would not be interested in you, because I don't feel that you know your voice enough and that you've explored enough, and that you're, like Elise said, they're interested in making money from you. And it's a little odd that you would just put yourself in one little niche and say, I'm not good for all these other commercial work. And I hear your voice is very commercial. So I would say whoever you're studying with, to really take an honest look and explore where you're at and where you want to go.
I've heard from a few agencies that they're sort of splitting up into different departments. And, there was a commercial New York agent that was like, if you're submitting for video game stuff, I don't want to see your commercial demo. So,
but the point is, and you don't have to answer me here, I think it's really interesting that you feel that that your voice is not good for commercials and you're not interested in it. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think your voice sounds great for commercials.
Yeah, Jamie.
Go ahead, Jamie, and then I'll say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, Laura, definitely don't count yourself out and exclude yourself from potential opportunities, because I know in our office, Terry and I have cast multiple commercials that have been animated commercials. And even if they're looking for a grounded read, it's still animation and they're still really fun characters. And so there is an opportunity to get that bit that you like as well. And like for me, Terry mentioned I'm a voiceover actor. I come from a theater background. I love character stuff. I love animation and interactive and video games and all that. But I've booked the majority of my work doing commercials so far. Just because I was willing to expand into that different area and learn that. And there's so much diversity within commercial voiceover as well. It's not just what you think of when you hear a radio commercial. So yeah, I think that's definitely something looking into.
It's definitely you need a point of view when you have commercials, and there's personality driven commercials. So I don't think you quite understand what commercial voiceover is for you to make a statement that your voice is not good for it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
because I agree. I think your voice is very commercial. And here's a little plug for Terry. She teaches great classes for commercial VO. But and it could be at first, because I had a student who was like, I don't like commercials. And I said, well, just think of your commercials like you're a
Why
character.
would someone not like commercials? I don't
I
understand.
love
They can't understand it. They can't understand the creativity it takes, the acting that it takes to say in voiceover, I don't like commercials. Voiceover. It's
yes.
weird. It's odd to me.
But
Okay,
even
let's move on.
corporate, some people don't like corporate. And I'm like, I'm getting paid and I don't have to be an accountant. Give me corporate all day long. Like I just love acting. So yeah, try it. And you've got so much support, Laura, over here in the chats. But try it out and just see.
Jamie, let's move on to the next.
Exactly. I was gonna say we'll go ahead and move on in the interest of time, but thank you so much for your
But
question,
thank you,
and
Laura,
it's
because if you asked the question, probably somebody else had it in your head.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
their head. So you probably just helped multiple other people as well, whether it was their thought on commercial or thought on corporate or thought on something else. So thank you.
exactly. So thank you. Moving right along, Ronnie Williams, you were
Ronnie!
next. So
You
come
know
on up
Ronnie?
and ask.
Yes, he's one of my students.
Everyone say where you're located when you come
Oh
up.
yeah.
So interesting. Where are you coming from, Ronnie?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, but I
Yeah.
moved to North Carolina.
Oh,
Lanya.
you have to learn how to pronounce it if you live there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Uh, First of all, hello, Elise. It's nice to see
Hello.
you and you see
Good to
me.
see you. Yes.
And hello, Mrs. Terry. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to
And
meet you.
Elise, when you were talking about your experience and you were like, well, sweetie, I was over here laughing my butt off.
Me too.
Sweetie.
She
That
would
was
probably
so funny.
kill me for that impression too, because that was not how it really went down.
You
That's
notice I
funny.
didn't ask the name of the agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't really say it like that, but it's way more fun if I tell it like that.
Oh, that was funny. So real quick on my question. So I have my demos professionally done. I have my resume, website, everything. At least you know this. My question is if you're when you're interested in an agent, is it an option to travel to that agency and introduce yourself in person and give them your resume, or does it always have to be like from an email or the website?
I can answer that. And then you, I just have to
You
jump
go
on
first. I already saw your
because
opinion coming
so
out.
many of my bookings, if there are multiple roles, not everyone's from LA. Two people will be from LA. We just had someone from Dallas, someone from Florida, North Carolina. And I have talked to agents about this, and there's this one very prestigious agency, and they tell me, I never met this person in person. We saw them on Zoom. They're booking, we decided to represent them. They're booking. We never met them, and we don't care. So it's very different now. So,
Yeah.
Elise.
Well, great answer. And I would be too nervous anyway, because you hear some people, like smaller agencies, may have closed down during COVID and they're working from home, or they're not in the office, or I wouldn't recommend that either. I like your answer, Terry.
Yeah, don't even ask to meet them in person, because that's not very now. That's like old school.
Old school.
It did used to be a thing. I mean, when I lived in LA, we used to do drop-offs
Yeah.
at studio lots for TV casting directors. But I just feel like everything has changed these days. COVID changed so much.
So basically,
Says
I need
Captain
to get with
Obvious,
the times.
but huh?
Basically, I need
Thanks.
to get with the times.
Yeah. Stick with us. We'll give you little nuggets.
Thank you.
Say too, Ronnie.
Good
Look
question,
on their
though.
agency websites if they have one, because different agencies are going to have different submission requirements. Some people prefer a form, some people want you to email it. So everyone's going to have their own different way that they like to receive submissions if they're accepting unsolicited submissions. So just check into that.
Thanks, Miss Berlin.
Yeah.
And Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Jamie?
Yeah, even
Call me
David
Eric.
said, yeah, we used to go on the buddy system. We would go
Yeah,
places.
right. Exactly, David. And then you
Yeah.
go out to lunch in between.
Yes.
Okay.
Times have changed.
All right, next up we have Marcellus
Starbucks, David.
DeLuna. Come on up, Marcellus.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Oh, now we see
Okay,
you.
awesome. Yay, cool. Hold on, let me get this situated. Okay. Hi. I'm Marcellus. I am located in Sacramento. And my question was, I was wondering other resources that you can recommend in terms of like submitting for voiceover roles, because in my experience, I haven't had trouble finding on-camera work, but finding voice work has been a bit of a challenge for me. So I was wondering if there were maybe some resources that like I may not know about.
Yeah, and we lost Terry. So there are oh, sorry, I was checking
I
the chat.
wanted to bring this.
Oh, okay.
And-
I figured you were
I
going to say something
know.
good. Share yours first and then I'll give some
Oh.
ideas.
Do you know about the voiceover resource guide for voiceover resource guide? It's online too.
This is
And
my
Yeah,
first time seeing this.
voiceoverresourceguide.com. It is
yeah, and it has lots of production companies. So especially if you do more announcer work and promos, a lot of these studios, they don't go through casting directors. They have their own in-house casting where, you know, they'll be doing an animation project. So, yeah, this is a good resource.
Okay.
That's a good resource.
Excellent.
And then sometimes, like I did sales for a while too. I sold fiber optic assemblies in the telecom world. What I learned though, we are just salespeople now. So if we, you know, we can't sit around watching our favorite show on Netflix, watching reruns and eating bonbons, we have to be salespeople. So if we are not auditioning or booking work, we need to be marketing and updating our website and using social media or old school, like reaching out and networking that Terry mentioned earlier. I have had multiple friends who are getting more work from LinkedIn connections than they are from their agent right now. And it is like being active on LinkedIn and being very professional with reaching out to people and staying in touch. If you're into anime, then X/Twitter is a great place to stay in touch with people. And I have found that it's one of those things, like if you start showing interest in anime or video game or animation projects, then Twitter will start, that will start showing up on your feed. And then you can also kick it old school, like Terry is saying, find production companies you want to work for, whatever type of work, commercial work, corporate work, medical narration, and reach out to them. I've had friends who do voice prompts and have called and gone, man, your voicemail system isn't awesome, but I'm a voice actor and, you know, in better words than that. And I can do it. So sometimes it's the nitty gritty hustle part of voice acting that people don't talk about. But if you want to get paid as a voice actor and not do accounting work for a defense systems company, then that part is involved too. And then you still get to do the work and it's fun.
I would say follow casting directors or production companies that you know cast voiceover on Instagram, like Berland Casting. My Instagram account is very, very, very active. And I see sometimes they'll even do little voices, or there's challenges on Instagram and the other social media platforms too. TikTok has challenges. So definitely social media. All of you here should be following Berland Casting on Instagram and Facebook, but Instagram is more active. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
finding
Thank you
your
so much.
local casting directors, whatever market you're in too. So Terry casts nationally sometimes, but then
All
like
the
there are
time. All the
local
time.
casting directors as well who may just cast in your Dallas market or Florida market. So that I love that you brought that up, Terry.
Where are you located?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, Sacramento.
Oh, you said
Oh,
that.
Sacramento.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You did say that.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I was
And
like,
somebody
me?
just put,
Nice to meet you.
there have been
Thank
some
you.
good resources dropped in the chat too.
Yes.
But
Nava.
thank you, Marcellus, for the question. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
There's
Absolutely. Thank you.
Facebook groups, voiceover groups. Yeah. And it's
Mhm.
Awesome.
interesting that you talk about LinkedIn, voiceovers voiceover talent are finding great success on that, because I noticed on my LinkedIn account, there's many more voiceover talent that ask to be in my network.
Oh,
Many more than
interesting.
on camera. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So next question, moving right along, our lovely Blanca good friend. I see you here. Let me spot.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, ladies.
Hi, Blanca.
Hello.
Where are you? Where are
I'm
you
Blanca.
today?
I'm in Central Florida. I'm in Floral City.
Okay.
Mm.
It's a very historic older town. You're in and out of it. Don't blink because you'll pass it. But it's very
I see
beautiful.
Lori Wyman is saying hi to you.
Oh, hey. Hello.
Bring you up for a moment, Lori, in a little while.
Oh, hello. Hi, everybody. I would love to do voiceovers. I have a voiceover demo, and though I'm afraid it might be dated, is there some way someone would, how would I go about having somebody, maybe you could listen to it and let me know, have it listened to, and have somebody, review it, because they'll probably tell me to go back in the studio and do new ones, like you said, but would that be a place to begin with what I have, or?
You can send it to us at info at berlandcasting.com. In fact, Jamie, you can put that in the chat.
Oh, that would be great. Oh, okay. It's all
Give me
online.
time, just give me time, because like right now I'm in the middle of a very big project. So sometimes
Oh, thank you.
it takes time to get to
I'll do
it.
that. And Elise, thank you so much.
Oh,
been
thank
very
you.
beautiful.
Oh, good.
They're wonderful. These are wonderful workshops, they offer so much. They're great. Well, thank you.
Elise,
Thank you.
Elise actually has a workshop through Berland Casting Workshops that is coming up. And
Okay.
it's not a large commitment. It's 3 hours on October 9th. And she'll tell you about it before we get off. But it's how to build your
thank you.
characters. Yeah, so it's
Fantastic.
mhm.
Yeah, I will tell you about it before we get off.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate
you just
it,
tell me
ladies.
when, Terry.
Bye, Lori.
Thanks,
Well, I'm
Blanca.
still here.
Oh, okay.
I'm not leaving.
Jamie, you might want to put it in the chat where they can find it, just in case someone have to get off.
Yep, I'm working on that right now,
We're
in
we're up
fact.
to an hour now, so let's take just a couple of more questions.
Great. I
Okay.
think we just
Wrap
have
it
one
up.
more actively
Okay,
at the
one more
moment.
question, great.
Alex Calderon, come on up.
Oh, Alex is my student too. Hello, Alex.
Elise, I'm a big fan of yours, so it's an honor to be here. Um, so what you said about trend like the trend being like having more of a real sounding voice, is it possible for an actor to be a trendsetter, do you think?
Ooh, Terry, you want to answer that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you might, there are people who have set trends, who have a certain type of voice and they get booked for a large campaign. Or everything's more real now. So I know I was a trendsetter as a casting director because I always cast more real. And when the actors were coming in person, and we would direct them, and these were six-figure making voiceover talent, and I would be directing them more real, and they'd say, Terry, but the spot's not going to end up that way. And I said, I know, but this is what they've come to me for the audition. And there's been actors who give a read that's unexpected that might set trends. And I have to tell you, for a lot of my projects, I am looking for people who sound your age range. So you should send me an email. I don't know where you're at with your studies with Elise, but if you're, ready to work and you have a demo, definitely email us. Because we're always looking for those 20 to 25-year-olds. In addition to other things, don't worry, everyone. But the 20 to 25-year-olds are hard to find. And I asked the agents why, what's going on? And they said, because, when someone goes to college or graduate drama school, their voiceover is not on their mind. And then when they get out, they want to do film and television. And then by the time they're hip to voiceover, they're already 30 and sounding, there's a certain knowledgeable feeling. It's different for a 30 to 35-year-old than a 20 to 25-year-old. Yeah, so you're in a good place at a good time.
Thank you. All right. So at some point I should send an email to you,
Yes.
like whenever I'm ready to.
You're ready.
All right, because I still have to add a few things to my demo and record. But I'll keep in touch. I'll keep in touch. Thank
Okay.
you. And I'm based in Indiana, by the way.
Oh,
So
we're fine with that. As long as you have the proper home studio equipment. And I see, looks like David Lawrence wants to say something. He can even go into a little bit about home studio equipment because it doesn't have to cost you a fortune. Elise, I kind of hog the answer, please.
Well, since I get to see Alex a lot and talk with him, I wanted him to hear from you.
Okay.
And I'm so glad because now he knows that when his demo is done, he can email you. And so, Alex, I hope you're stealing the email from the chat because it's been dropped in a couple of times. And Alex and I can talk about that. So I wanted you to hog this answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Alex. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to
Thanks, Alex. Good to see you
seeing guys.
again.
Yes, good seeing you.
All right, David.
Lawrence. For those of you who don't know David Lawrence, he's actually been Elisa and my mentor in certain areas, and he knows voiceover inside out, backwards and inside out. So I'm really honored we don't know who's going to show up at these things. We didn't know. I'm honored that you're spending some time with us.
Yeah. You know, you never stop learning, and I've learned like at least 4 new things that I've written down. So,
Okay.
my question is, we've heard a lot of people say, here's what I think about where I am right now. Here's what I need to do. Here's what I don't want to do. My question to you is, what is the biggest, don't make this assumption, don't make this mistake when you're first starting off, don't try not to, make leap to conclusions. What's the biggest piece of advice for people who haven't started working in this space that either one of you would share with somebody so they don't make those kinds of mistakes?
I'm going to let you answer that, Elise.
That's a good one. The first, I don't know if this is what you're asking, but the first thing that comes to mind is don't assume you can't do it. I think you could, like, I still remember what it felt like to be an actor who didn't know anything. So I know sometimes when you're getting started, it can feel overwhelming, but you can do this. You just do have to have a passion for it because it does take work, and you have to seek out teachers you connect with. You have to be willing to be vulnerable because you do have to put yourself out there, whether it's putting yourself out on social media or sending MP3s and getting rejected, because we audition a lot and only book a small percentage. So I think I want people to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's been one of my mottos all these years, like put yourself out there and do it. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think you shouldn't try. I know when I started with acting, my first class, I didn't know if I was actually going to be an actor or not. I was just like, well, I'll take a class, and if I don't decide to be an actor, I'll just be better at giving presentations to Army guys and to executives at the defense company. Now I decided to pursue it, and I was willing to fail, but I didn't want to live without regrets. I wanted to be very intentional with what I did. So that's, I guess, advice as well. So at least try it if it's something you're interested in, and then you can decide, yeah, I want to pursue this, and I can find people to help me, whether it's other actors or teachers or mentors, or nah, I gave it a try and I'm not as passionate as I thought. So
Cool.
that's my answer.
Awesome.
To me, I mentioned this before. Don't over edit your demo, the first demo that's going out, or your auditions. Really be satisfied where you're at the time, and your demo should reflect where you're at. Because I have had the experience where I have booked someone and brought someone in who over edited, and it was a disaster when they got into the studio for them and for my clients, and then for me because they blame me because I'm supposed to know you guys. So you will get, to a very trust, guys, that you're good for certain things where you're at now, and then things, a year from then or 6 months from then. It's a relationship business. We all get to know each other. You want to feel a part of the community, and know that you're in relationship with us, meaning the people who are going to book you. Yeah.
And just to clarify, when you say over edit, are you talking about maybe overproducing and creating something that you can't reproduce in the studio once you get in the studio?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
That is.
Yeah, and there's a very famous demo producer who is known worldwide who boldly and bald-facedly said, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I want to make you sound like you can do anything. And to me, that's always struck me as being destructive to the actor. You get into the studio and you can't reproduce what you've got on your demo.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David, what's your answer to that question?
I think people overspend and they make
Oh,
their demos and start looking for agents too soon. Um, and they don't have faith in the idea that a demo is a living, breathing document that will change over time.
mm-hmm.
And like Terry said, and like you're saying, will, get better and better and reflect your additional training and your additional experience. And the big one for me is they overspend on equipment. Like you said, people are like, I got
Yeah,
to
get
spend.
into that a little bit, please.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I eat my own dog food. Like I have a Neumann U87 and an MKH 416 sitting on the shelf. I haven't used them in a long time because I use a microphone that is inexpensive yet stellar, and it works. And you don't have to overspend. You don't want to, like, if you're just dipping your toe into this, you don't want to sit there and go, okay, now this becomes a return on investment calculation. I've now spent $10,000 on a booth and $4,000 on just my mic, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking all these courses on learning Pro Tools when I'm not going to use 95% of what Pro Tools does. So I think people get this notion that there's an awful lot of stuff to do at the beginning that they can just start off with little baby steps and go a lot further than they think.
Yeah, very well said.
Yes, as usual.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
David.
you. I see Lori Wyman's here, who is a casting director in South Florida.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
do you want me to bring her on?
she
Hey,
ha-
Lori.
she
All right,
actually.
I'll unmute. I was just gonna watch you. I was just gonna
I
watch.
know. I'm sorry.
I don't even know what I
Called
look
out.
like.
Lori does something called office hours, and is it once a month now or once a week?
I do it once a month now. I was doing it every Thursday for a year and a half when the pandemic started.
Yeah.
But now I just do it the
She
first
has
Thursday.
lots of guests on, so look up
You were my guest.
Lori
Oh,
Wyman
nice.
casting. Yeah.
So is it an interview type situation like this,
Not
Lori?
always. Every month is something different. I speak to somebody, maybe when Terry comes on, we usually talk commercials. I've had voiceover people and self-taping, how to do self-taping, and I've had agents and casting directors and just like anybody. Next month I'm going to have a photographer, like headshot photographer.
Oh,
We're going to talk about headshots, and we'll bring some people up to kind of say, well, how we see them and what kinds of characters we think they can play. So it's that kind. And then maybe a couple of times a year I do a wellness, like an emotional wellness day, because like halfway through the year I'm going, all right, guys, I think we need to like push ourselves. And I like to Thanksgiving, I usually do one on Thanksgiving Day because it's a Thursday, and I just let everybody share what they're grateful for. So it's just kind of, we go with what.
Well, it's so
oh, that's so great.
exciting that you're here today. Thank you.
I know. I got the email from you. I'm like, spend some time with Terry.
So I see some people are starting to leave. So Elise does have a one night. It's 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time workshop that she's going to be doing through Terry Berland workshops. It's how to build your characters. And do you want to talk a little bit about it? It is October 9th. It is on the website, Terry Berland Workshops. And Jamie will put it there. And before we put it out to the public, you guys are in the inside room. Only 15 people will be accepted. And you have first dibs.
Yeah, so we're doing it October 9th. I see she did drop information in the chat, but it's a lot of what we talked about today. We're going to be talking about characters for anime, animation, video games, how to create characters. So I have a couple of exercises. We're also going to be doing script work and kind of working on characters. Yeah, some cartoony characters, but bringing acting and realistic characters as well. And then I have a simple way to create excuse me, create characters and track those so that you have a little toolbox that you very quickly can come up with a list of characters for your demo. If you haven't created a demo, a character demo, or maybe you need to enhance your demo. And then that toolbox can also be used for auditions or for going to jobs. In case you're not always feeling creative, you have a list and a way to track them. So I think it's going to be a really fun night. We'll just play.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everyone who's not familiar, look up Terry Berland Workshops, Voice Print West. For those of you who might not have gotten into voiceover yet, we have a core Kickstart. It's 3 sessions. That's it. We don't drag it out for you. And you learn the basics to really build on. Elise, you've been a fabulous guest. Everyone,
thank you. Thank you.
Hearts and hugs and
This was so much fun. Thank you for having me, Terry.
You're great. Thank you for all your expertise. If there's any last words you'd like to say, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And whether you are brand new or you've been doing this 20, 40 years, encouragement to you. Go team. I think this is just such a fun career, and I encourage you to always be learning. Like, I still absolutely love it. I love acting. I love coaching. So it has been a pleasure to talk about voice acting with all of you and with you, Terry. So
yeah,
go team again.
We will have a rerun of this, or the recording that we'll post on our Instagram within the next couple of days. And
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube channel.
thank you guys.